Alright, AP Human Geography classes, on to our next unit, industry. And what we're going to focus on is, where is industry distributed? Let's get to it. Alright, so let's get a little intro to industry here. Industrialization is highly clustered in regions, and this is because of land, labor, and capital gains, right? So obviously they need land to build, they need the labor to obviously produce goods, and they need the profit to keep it going. So this is more clustered than agriculture. Agriculture is more widespread throughout the United States, whereas industrial regions are actually clustered not only in the United States but around the world. Now there are two important questions when one places their industry. And these two questions are the following: where the markets for the product are located, and where the resources are needed to make the product, getting it from somewhere, shipping it to somewhere, so on and so forth. And there's a shifting trend that's happening today. 33% of all manufacturing jobs were lost to outsourcing in the United States over the last 50 years. Now, more MDC companies are manufacturing products in LDCs than ever before, hence that shifting trend. And there's this question whether or not you keep it in-house with domestic workers, or do you outsource it and make cheaper products that more people can afford? It's kind of a double-edged sword. All right, let's talk about the Industrial Revolution. Let's get into the history. Industry itself was transformed due to industrial technology and basically increasing the production capacity versus something called the cottage industry. This is before the Industrial Revolution. This is when people made their own tools and equipment or found it at like a local market. Now, the process of the Industrial Revolution happened over time. It was a gradual diffusion. A lot of people think it was, boom, there it is, Industrial Revolution. Here it comes, right? It was very gradual and actually slow and took many decades. It first began in the United Kingdom in the late 1700s, specifically in northern England and southern Scotland. As you can see with this map over here, you can see that as time progressed, from the early 1800s to the late 1800s, you could see how it diffused over the entirety of Europe. Now, Europe, North America, and East Asia actually account for 25% of the world's industrial output, which is crazy, right? Just those areas. We're going to talk about them very soon. But before I go on, I must tell you the most important piece of technology. And that, ladies and gentlemen, goes to the steam engine. And the steam engine, and we've talked about this before, can supply more power more efficiently than water mills, human and animal power. It was created by a gentleman by the name of James Watt in 1769 in Glasgow, Scotland. Now, the industries that have been most impacted by the steam engine are the following industries. We'll talk about them right now. So first off, iron industry. Steam allowed to keep the ovens constantly warm, instead of people having to shovel, let's say, coal in there and then having it cool down and shoveling more coal, right? It was much more efficient. Now, also, like I just mentioned, coal, these operated the ovens that melted the iron, and this was also a good alternative to wood. Wood was very scarce in the UK because there was a high demand for shipbuilding, so coal was a great alternative. But again, how do we keep those ovens constantly warm? Well, the steam engine could do that. Probably most importantly was transportation, because it helped diffuse the Industrial Revolution, literally. Now, railroads were the main source of transportation, and so now steam engines were used to not only power railroads, they obviously helping raw materials that were produced in factories much more efficiently and quickly. Now, the textile industry was also impacted. Machines were invented to untangle cotton using the steam engine, and chemicals can now be bleached and dyed with clothing using a steam engine as well to produce that. And lastly, we can see the Industrial Revolution later on now, especially today, because of all these canned foods and bottled water that we have as far as food processing is concerned. All right, let's talk about Europe here and their most important industrial regions. Do note that there are other regions in your book that I will not go over in this video. Please look at your book for that information. All right, let's start in the United Kingdom. It was the first country to enter the Industrial Revolution, which many of you know, and it dominated the steel and textile production. Even today, the United Kingdom is one of the few European areas that promote business by lowering taxes. And also they use increased technology constantly to increase manufacturing. There's also another area called the Rhine-Ruhr Valley, and this is located in Western Europe between France and Germany. You could see on the map there. And this is an area where large coal fields are located, and hence iron and steel are produced here. In fact, it is home to one of the largest ports in the world, Rotterdam, which is located actually in the Netherlands. All right, let's talk about North America. The Industrial Revolution began a little bit later in the U.S. in 1860, but I do want you to see how gradual the Industrial Revolution was. The first textile mill opened in 1791, and then again, as time went on, decade after decade, more ideas began to be diffused. Now, in North America, the industrial area is highly concentrated within the northeastern quadrant of the U.S. and the southeastern quadrant of Canada, and this is the reason why early settlement gave these cities vast infrastructure to handle industry. Now, also, these areas contain numerous raw materials such as iron ore and coal, and they have plenty of transportation, specifically waterways, to transport these goods via the Great Lakes, Mississippi, and Ohio rivers. All right, so where are the most important industrial areas in North America? Again, there are more. I'm just going to go over three. New England, which is the oldest industrial area, began with cotton textiles imported from southern states, right, the agrarian society. Then they sold their products to Europe. Now, the another area is the Middle Atlantic, which is where we live. This is the largest U.S. market. This is the reason why it's near a large financial, communication, entertainment area, specifically the New York area, or even extended out to today to the tri-state area. And then within Canada, specifically southeastern Ontario, is the most important industrial area. It has attracted many businesses because of inexpensive electricity due to Niagara Falls, and it is home to one of the largest steel production and motor vehicle assemblies in North America. On to East Asia. Ironically, with East Asia, this is now a very prominent area of industry, and it's because, well, they are initially isolated from large world markets, and quite frankly, especially in Japan, there's a shortage of abundant natural resources. Now, the reason why they have progressed and developed so much is because of people power, right? I don't want to say manpower, I want to say people power. A lot of men, women, and even children started working and are working still to progress East Asia's rankings among the manufacturing nations. Now, Japan, for your information, ranks second, and China actually ranks third. All right, let's talk about Japan real quick. Well, Japan became an industrial power in the 1950s and 60s by specializing in producing high-priced goods at cut-rate prices. It actually used to be a lot of products were made in Japan that are very poor quality, but again, they started to specialize and become better and better at it and made these products cheaper and more competitive on foreign markets. They focus on automobiles, ships, cameras, stereos, TVs, you name it. This is how they did it. They kept wages very low, lower than North America and Europe, and they exported these items to North America and Europe for them to buy. Now, manufacturing is concentrated, like we said, it's highly clustered and concentrated near large urban areas, and in Japan, it's Tokyo and Yokohama. Moving on to China, which is the world's largest supplier of low-cost labor and the world's largest market, hence the people, 1.3 billion and counting. Now, they're the largest manufacturer of textiles, steels, and many household products. Now, many transnational companies, as many of you know, moved to China for low-cost labor, and these policy changes happened in the 1990s. Which allowed many of these companies to go, such as Nike. Now, manufacturing in China is concentrated within three areas: Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Beijing. Again, these are large urban areas. Okay, that was it. Quick wrap up. We're going to talk much more about industry in class. See you then.